From WBBZ-TV Sports, it's time to beat the champ. Now, here are your hosts, Paul Peck and Sue Novoitsky.
Our Southern Tier getaway continues. It's week number 2 of Beat the Champ in Jamestown, New York at the Jamestown Bowling Company. And much like it was a week ago, Sue, it's the same guy that's coming back to bowl again, Steve Dorobiala, on a 4-match winning streak after sweeping week 1.
Well, that unassuming personality has really come to the forefront to be an advantage for him, because he's not getting super excited about anything that's happening. He's taking every frame as it comes and just be meticulous about his shots.
The challengers for this week for Steve, a couple of Southern Tier guys in Paul Geiger and Jeremy Crist, and Sean Dietz from Lockport. So we're covering all ends of Western New York here with the challengers.
We are. We've got more left-handers coming on, which is going to be a challenge for Steve, because now you're going to see a lot more movement and transition on the lane. So whoever wins today is going to have to bowl their way through it and throw them really, really good shots.
All right. Are you ready to go? It's been kind of calm here in the first week, right?
I'm ready for some excitement.
All right. Well, there you go. We've had excitement. We just got to work on getting Janelle excited.
Yeah.
We'll do our best for that, and we'll do our best for you as well, too. Week number 2 in Jamestown. Let's get rolling.
I'm here at Beat the Champ with our returning champion, Steve Dorobiala. Nice to see you here again. I know you expected or anticipated being here for another week, but how's it feel to be champion for the going into the third time?
I feel fortunate. Every match so far could have gone either way. They've been close matches, and my opponents have been keeping the pressure on me, so they made me perform.
Okay, well, I see a couple left-handers come up for you, so you might see a little transition, and I can only tell you to keep doing what you're doing.
Thanks. I'll give it a shot.
All right, good luck.
Thank you.
I'm here on Beat the Champ with our first competitor today from Hinsdale, New York, Paul Geiger. No stranger to bowling centers. I hear you own a few of your own.
Yeah, we have 2, one in Pennsylvania, Bradford, and then the other one's in Salamanca, New York, Central Lanes. It's a challenging business at times, but I wouldn't trade it for anything.
Do you get a lot of chance to practice?
No. Bowling a few leagues, but most part you're working. That's what you do.
Yep, like a typical proprietor, you get out there and have to bowl your leagues?
Yeah, and then you hear everything while you're in the league, so sometimes it takes away from what's going on, but it's all good.
All right, well, I'm sure a lot of people are going to be watching you bowl the show, and because you know a lot of people over there.
I do. Yeah, I got a few up here with us, so it's good.
All right, well, good luck to you today, and I hope you do well.
All right, thank you.
So Paul Geiger on the left side in the orange shirt will be the guy who will try to end the winning streak of Steve Dorobiala as we get things started here, week number 2 at the Jamestown Bowling Company. Paul is from Hinsdale, New York, not far away from here, 52 years old, retail store manager, and he and his wife own a couple of bowling centers down here in the Southern Tier in Bradford, PA, and in Salamanca. So even though he doesn't bowl here a lot, he is a bowling guy and is making his debut on Beat the Champ. And that's a good way to start.
Good way to start. Getting used to viewing the lane from the left-hand side.
Yeah. And now Steve Dorobiala, our returning champion. This is his 5th appearance on Beat the Champ, an overall record of 4 wins and 2 losses, and he's in the midst of a 4-match winning streak. So these 4 wins have been the first 4 of his career. He won the last match a couple of weeks ago at Fredonia to advance on, and then last week swept the week here in Jamestown. And he's off to a good start as well. Steve has been solid and steady. The scores have been solid and steady. How about 232, 227, and 226 in order to get Steve his 3 wins a week ago over Tom Sorsey, Joe Doxbeck, and Rusty Martin. That's pretty consistent, isn't it?
It's very consistent, and again, I'm going to keep going back to his demeanor, but I mean, he faced someone like Tom Sorsey with the resume that Tom has, and he faced someone who's never made the show before, and he's faced a local guy who has a cheering section behind him, and all with the same attitude: just go up and make good shots, make good shots, make good shots. And we see where that got him. Paid off.
Yep. 6-pin just would not go down there even after it got bumped. So he'll be shooting for the spare here, will Steve Dorobiala.
Well, we talked a little bit about transition, and one of the advantages of left-handers is that they see less transition because there's a higher concentration of right-handers, but that's not so much today. You know, we've seen more left-handers than normal, so we're going to see some changes going on, and how they adjust to it is going to be, you know, an issue.
I feel like at Fredonia we didn't see any lefties up until Steve maybe right towards the end, and now here this is our third lefty in 4 matches. And Paul Geiger showing us that the Southpaws can get it done as well too. 52 years old, I mentioned, for Paul, from Hinsdale, New York, a 222 average, bowls regularly 3 nights a week, and it kind of helps when you're a co-owner of a bowling center. You get to bowl as much as you want. There's Janelle Saban and the Castellone Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram scoreboard, getting our first early look at this one. Paul's got a nice history too, going back when he was younger. 1987 USBC team champion, 1987 Pennsylvania State Bowling Association scratch all events champion. So he's bowled at a very high level early on in his life.
Well, that success is probably what gave him the wise idea to buy some bowling centers.
Maybe, because I'm pretty good at this. I like this. I might as well figure out how to invest in this stuff a little bit. So a good start with 3 straight strikes to open things up for Paul, and now Steve Dorobiala will have to notch it up a few here. 39 years old, from West Seneca, New York, the owner of his own landscaping company, Summit Seasonal. Things getting a little busy for him now this time of year. A little later than we all thought maybe, but Steve's out there making sure everybody's lawn and landscaping is looking good for the summer.
Well, it's been a challenging winter, so I'm sure when you have something like the winter that we've had, and it affects how they do their job,
Sure.
I have to imagine.
Yeah, I mean, to be at the mercy of the weather around here is, you know what you're getting into, but I'm sure it gets a little frustrating. So it's been frustrating for us just living here.
Yeah, I know, because the second the weather changes, we all want our lawns to be perfectly beautiful and green.
I need the snow to melt first, which it did a couple weeks ago. Yeah, Steve's had some issues before with the 7-pin that are holding up, and there's one of them right there for him to deal with.
Well, you know, lanes always change a little bit different, and when they do, it matters what lane you start and finish on and what your ball reaction is. Like in this case, the last few frames, although he's hit the pocket, he's had a little bit more trouble with pin collision, with, you know, the way it hits on 17 affecting his carry. And where he finishes will matter, because you want to finish on the lane that you feel more comfortable striking on.
So it's a spare in the 4th frame, 2 strikes and 2 spares for Steve to get things started in the first 4. And now we slide back over to Paul. How about 55 career 300 games for Paul Geiger, and 24 career 800 series with a high of 847. And he is perfect through 4.
This feels like a good time to take a short break. We'll be right back with more action on Beat the Champ.
Welcome our new Beat the Champ sponsor, Owl Homes of Fredonia, Western New York's leading builder of modular and manufactured homes. Call 673-1366 and online at owlhomeswny.com.
Welcome back to Beat the Champ. Let's get back to the action here on WBBZ-TV.
So Steve's just got to focus on continuing to knock the pins down and hope that there's a hiccup somewhere coming from Paul Geiger.
Perfect.
You know, and it seems to me like when Steve's really bowling well, he's got lots of pins flying and popping up in the air and knocking those corner pins down when he needs it.
Well, we talked a little bit earlier, Tom brought it to our attention that the rack's a little bit open on lane 17. So we're talking about Steve had a few breaks there that were a 7-pin or 7-pin or so because of the way his ball hits, because it was coming in late, and he has to compensate for that, and that's been his only issue, is lane 17.
And once again, speaking of good pin action, Paul got plenty of it there for an 8th consecutive strike. Nothing but X's across the board for Paul Geiger.
Yeah, neither of these guys have missed the pocket. I
Nope.
mean, they've all been right in the pocket for all their frames.
Shaping up as a great match coming down to the stretch here, starting week number 2 at the Jamestown Bowling Company.
You can see Paul uses the whole approach. He's all the way back, almost to the very back end. That's how he generates his ball speed.
And he liked that one as well, too.
Well, that one got a little bit to the left on
There's
him.
a little body English that Paul was trying to move it over there. So perfect through 9 for Paul Geiger. And it's good when you don't throw it perfectly and you still get the results that you need. That's exactly what you want. So even though Steve has bowled well, there's not much he can do at the moment.
No.
Can't play defense in bowling. And he's working 4 in a row himself. And that's a 6 pin that will not go down.
Yeah, it wasn't going to matter a whole lot for him because Paul's already got, I mean, obviously Paul could have opened, but that was a big shot for him. He needed to finish that out. And so, you know, now we've got the big 10th frame for Paul coming up.
So a spare in the 9th for Steve. And he will get set to finish things off and turn the stage over to Paul Geiger. Remember, we have had only one perfect game here in 2.5 years of Beat the Champ. It was done by Mike D'Amico, and that's been the only one we've had. So we'll see what happens in the 10th frame, whether we're adding to that list.
No kidding. This
Are you mad at me that I mentioned it, brought it up? Okay.
No, I wanted to get through the 9th frame, that's all.
I don't know if it's like baseball, you're not supposed to mention it, you know? That jinx it.
Well, once you're through 9, you know.
Yeah, it's once you're through 9,
only one frame left.
Exactly. So, and Steve continues to bowl very well here. Nothing you can do about it on Steve's front, and if he does not come up with a win here, it'll be a nice little 4-match run here for Steve Dorobiala. And
Well,
once again, good
unfortunately for
pin
Steve,
action.
Paul had him beat in the 8th frame now, so it's
Yeah, not
Good.
much you can do other than
No,
sort of
no.
admire your opponent and what they're doing, and now sit back and watch. And you know, hey, you get beat by a game like that. There, you know,
there's nothing you can do about it.
what more you can do? So final throw here for Steve Dorobiala. Boy, I tell you what, he looked great, and he's going to put a 239 on the board, his highest score on this run, and it's still not going to be enough.
Right.
So let's see what Paul Geiger can do as we move to the 10th frame. And there's one.
He's shaking his head a little bit, but you know, there's got to be some nerves. But what I like is that he put his hand in the ball. He took a little time up there on the approach, but when it came to going, he just went, because that's really one of the secrets. You want to take a deep breath and go. You don't want your hand being in the ball for too long, because it just swell and change your feel. You want to put your hand in the ball, take a deep breath and go. You know what you got to do.
The only other 300 game that we've had here on Beat the Champ came almost exactly a year ago when Mike D'Amico did it at Manor 2 Lanes in a win over Tyler Molina. So maybe it's something about April and May on this show. Second throw of the 10th frame. Got it. And we will come down to one more for a perfect 300 game for Paul Geiger. What a debut on Beat the Champ.
Right,
Regardless
right.
of what happens here, what a way to announce your entrance onto the TV show. So we'll let the sounds and the pictures tell you the story. Bowling for a 300 game.
Good shot.
Got it! Congratulations to Paul Geiger, a 300 game here at the Jamestown Bowling Company. It's only the 56th of his career, but I'm pretty sure he's going to tell us it's going to be one of the more memorable ones. How about that? For the first time we've seen him bowl on this show, he goes for the perfect game. Paul Geiger with the terrific performance and the 300. What do you think?
I think it was perfect. I mean, every shot right where he needed to have it. So we're going to you're going to get to talk to Steve now. What can you say, right?
Well, we'll find out what Steve thinks, and we'll get you ready for Paul advancing on to match number 2. You just saw it, a perfect game here on Beat the Champ. We're back to Jamestown right after this. Well, Steve, it's not often that 239 isn't enough to win, but when your opponent bowls a perfect 300 game, there's not much you can do, is there?
No, my hat's off to him. I felt I threw the ball the best out of any of my games down here, and he threw everything right there. You know, if you're going to lose, I guess that's the way to lose.
All right, well, so you didn't do a whole lot of losing. You win 4 in a row. Give me a sense of how you felt like you were bowling, even back to Fredonia and through the first 3 matches here.
Once you get one victory under your belt, you get kind of comfortable out there. And with someone coming in, you never know what they're going to do. And good luck. I hope he continues his stretch here. And,
that'll be fun.
Yeah.
That would be fun. Jim, you got a nice little size envelope there for him, don't you?
Yeah, I got a little more cash for you, and it was nice to meet you, and I hope you get back to see us again.
Thank you.
All right, so Steve gave us a lot of excitement. So did Paul. We'll see what Paul does in match number 2. We're back to Jamestown right after this.
I'm here on Beat the Champ with Jeremy Crist from Bemus Point out here in Jamestown. I've known you for a long time, but nice to see you on the show. League bowler here at Jamestown, they played different qualifying, or was it the same that you see during league?
Everything was pretty much the same as it was during league play. During league play, there really wasn't too many things that surprised me.
Yeah, so I know that the practice pair is hooking a little bit more than the TV pair. Do you see a lot of variation in oil when you bowl here at league?
No, not too much. Usually the difference is starting on lane 17, where the old surface from 1 to 16 versus the new surface from 17 to 24.
And we know that always does make a difference. So now you've just given us something to talk about while you're bowling.
All right, well, good. I'm glad I could help.
All right, well, it's nice to see you, and I hope you do well today.
Thank you.
Well, how do you follow up a 300 game? By coming up with another win. Or in this case of Jeremy Crist, the guy who's going to try to end this run for Paul Geiger that sits at 1 win and 1 perfect game so far. Jeremy Crist, the latest challenger here at the Jamestown Bowling Company, 42 years old, from Bemus Point, logistics manager at Midland Asphalt in Tonawanda. First time we have seen Jeremy Crist here on the show. And here we go with match number 2. Big hook from the right, and that's part of the reason why the 6-pin kind of hangs up there. Or is that the 3?
No, that's not the 3, that's the 9.
Oh, sorry about that.
Yeah, that's the back row. We can't tell from here, but that's the back row, so that's the 9.
It looked to me like it was much closer to the front.
They've kind of thrown it off. They switch it off because normally the beginning person will start on the left lane, and they went up on the right lane, so kind of.
All right, so it's a spare in the first frame for Jeremy Crist, and now here comes Paul Geiger. How do you follow up one of the more exciting moments we've had on the show, our second Beat the Champ perfect game? Let's see what Paul can keep that thing rolling.
I'll say it's really difficult to keep up the momentum after a 300. There's always that physical adrenaline letdown that you have to now compensate for, because he's got to keep up that ball speed.
Have you ever in all of your career been able to do back-to-back perfect games?
No. I
mean, they're hard to do no matter what, and they're rare no matter what. So.
They are.
But like you said, that's a very good explanation. You're just so jacked up and fired up, and everybody's patting you on the back, and everybody's telling you how great it was, and now, oh, I got to bowl again.
I mean, I've had like 16 300 games, and overall, to me that's a lot, but overall it's really not, because people have just accumulated them like crazy now. But I feel like they're easier, if there's such a word as easy, that they're a little easier to get in the third game, because you have the momentum going, and a lot of time it's for a high set. Like I've had my 800s have all been with 299 or 300 as the last game, because there's no letdown in there. You're not only going for the 300, but you're also going for the 800. So you're more concentrated on the 800, and the 300 is just what you need to get there. So it's all mental.
Oh, and that's the dreaded 7-10 split for Jeremy Crist here in the second frame.
Jeremy's covering a lot of boards. If you can see, he's going way right to left, and you know, when you're coming into the pocket from that angle, you can leave this because the ball is sort of losing its energy as it gets there, and you know, this is one of the things that can happen.
So he'll grab the 10, but that will leave a 9-pin open frame for Jeremy Crist here in the second. Jeremy bowls regularly here at the Jamestown Bowling Company on Wednesday nights. Bowls with his dad on Wednesdays, and then bowls in a doubles league here on Thursday nights. Well, just didn't have quite the impact there that he wanted. So right now, Jeremy kind of feeling his way through things a little bit.
Yeah, and he had some practice on this pair too, so he knows what he's dealing with, and he's definitely opening up the lane quite a bit, and that's creating this little margin for error that he has.
So staring at a 1-pin spare opportunity here in the third frame for Jeremy Crist. In addition to the bowling that he does, is a volunteer firefighter and has been for 25 years, and a past fire chief down at Bemus Point. So we thank Jeremy for all that volunteer service that he does. And it's a spare in the third frame, so it's spare, open, spare to open things up here for Jeremy. Meanwhile, as Paul Geiger does, knocking them all down through the first 2 frames.
Nothing like 14 in a row.
Nothing like 14 in a row is right. And there's a moment we haven't seen yet, which is Paul Geiger not knocking all the pins down.
Nice little round of applause for 14 in a row.
Yes.
I can see he moved his feet a little bit to the right, and so I know this lane's breaking down for him. I saw a little bit in practice, but you know, he didn't move enough. He needs to, this lane's definitely changed on him.
So let's see how his spare game is. It's good enough to get it done.
That's a good point, because that is not easy to do after you haven't shot one for 14 frames.
So 14 strikes in a row, including the perfect game. First 2 here of this match, and then a spare in frame number 3 for Paul Geiger. I had a chance to talk to Paul a little bit before the match. He had just gotten back from a trip down to see the NASCAR race at Bristol, Tennessee. Always one of the highlights on the NASCAR circuit. He's a regular down there, so they make the 10-hour drive down to Bristol, Tennessee, take in some NASCAR action.
We're going to be back with more Beat the Champ bowling action in just a minute. Welcome back to Beat the Champ.
And right back to striking again.
Have you ever gone to a NASCAR?
I had covered the Daytona 500, about 15 years ago, and it was an amazing experience. And a lot of people are always surprised when they ask me, what's the coolest sporting event that you've ever been to? Because I've covered Super Bowls and Stanley Cup Finals and Final Fours and stuff, and I tell them the single coolest moment at a sporting event that I've ever been to is the start of the Daytona 500.
Wow.
The noise, 200,000 plus on their feet, cars racing around for the start of the race. Just this incredible anticipation moment was one of the coolest things I've ever been at.
Wow, I have chills listening to you talk about that.
Yeah, really, really cool. You couldn't talk about different contrasting tracks when you go from Daytona, which is about the largest, almost the largest on the NASCAR circuit, to Bristol, which is one of the smallest. But there's just that anticipation level at the start of the green flag dropping that is really cool to be a part of.
I've heard it's really something.
Another open frame here for Jeremy Crist as he's struggling a bit here. So that's 2 opens in the first 4 for him. Yeah, you know, even if you're not a NASCAR fan per se, it's a really interesting experience. It's a really cool just to people watch and take everything in. And you know, there's Watkins Glen, obviously, being a road course is a little bit of a different viewing experience, but if you get a chance to get to Pocono for one of the ovals is not all that far away. There's a Michigan as well, too.
Wow, you know what you're talking about.
I'm a little bit of a closet NASCAR fan. I've enjoyed it, always have. And I'll tell you what, you talk about bowling fans being loyal to their sport in this town. Race fans are equally as loyal and enthusiastic about their sport in Western New York. Think about all the short tracks and dirt tracks that are in our Western New York area. Probably 6 or 8 or 10 of them within an hour or 2 drive. That's a lot of people that race, that love it, that put their heart and soul into it. You know, just like in your sport, you get out of work, you can't get to the bowling center. Race fans can't get to wait to get to go work on the car if they enjoy driving.
Pete Maduri does both.
That's right, drag racer Pete Maduri, absolutely.
But you know, a lot of bowlers that I know, actually quite a few, do the Lancaster Speedway, where they one of the nights they drive their own, they race.
Well, the drag races, I think, on Tuesday nights there. Yeah, you can take the family minivan out there and drag race it if you want to.
Oh, can you?
I think they used to do that, yes.
Nice adjustment there.
So that's 3 in a row now for Paul after the spare in the 3rd frame. So, yeah, a lot of similarities between like I said, the passion and loyalty of sports fans in Western New York, either for bowling or for auto racing. Speaking of bowling, and if you're a big bowling fan, and we know that you are for watching this show, the biggest bowling event of the year comes up next week. That's the Open Hour Masters up at Airport Lanes, which is always the best of the best in Western New York.
Absolutely, and you know, it's always very well attended spectator-wise too. So it's free admission. So if anybody is a bowling fan, and certainly every bowler that you've seen on Beat the Champ is going to be there competing. And it's very well kept up in the newspaper too. It tells you when all the squads are. But Tuesday and Wednesday, the 15th and 16th, is qualifying for that tournament. And every Western New York bowler, I mean, that is a competitive bowler, is out there. And you know, quite a few of the girls too are out competing in that.
Yeah, and, it really is the toughest test because of the amount of bowling you have to do in such a short amount of time.
Right, and it's double elimination, which you know, we're going to spend our 4th show next month really focusing.
Yeah, we're going to do a little Open Hour Masters in that show.
We're going to focus on that tournament and kind of go through what happens, and you know, the changing of the lane conditions, what the format is, stuff like that, and then you know, we're going to actually even try to put the last match on if we can possibly.
That'll be a lot of fun. Yeah. That'll be great. And again, it's why that you know, some of the list of winners of the Open Hour Masters are some of the greatest bowlers in Western New York, including some of the PBA level guys.
Right. I was just going to say, you're right, because on Beat the Champ, we don't get the
They're not eligible
to see the Jack Jureks and the Mike. Well, we've seen Mike Falero and John
the Ryan Simonellis. You know,
maybe in a 4th show we can see some of these people, but for the most part, you know, competing on a regular basis, and they're all there for this tournament. So.
Yeah, so can't encourage you enough if you enjoy this show and you really want to go out and see some of the highest level bowling that you'll see all year long in Western New York, to head over to Airport Lanes and check out the Open Hour Masters, which will come up next week.
Right, and they bowl in 2 squads, so there'll be a group that goes out at 6:30, and then there'll be a group that goes out at 9 o'clock, and then they flip-flop, and the 9 o'clock group will bowl at 6:30 on the next day, and so each person gets to bowl once on the fresh oil, and then they come back and they bowl on the oil that's been bowled on.
Back in the day, it used to be a 2-week event.
Yeah.
You know, now it's been condensed into a week, but it used to be 2 full weeks of a lot of bowling, and it was great. And Paul, speaking of great, Paul Geiger continues to be incredibly impressive here. He, after 14 in a row, including the 300 game, then a spare, now he's gone 5 in a row. So 19 of the last 20 frames he's thrown are strikes. Yeah. That's unbelievable. That's amazing.
And he's got this match wrapped up as well.
So it's been a little bit of a struggle here for Jeremy Crist in his Beat the Champ debut, as there's one of the nicest ones he's thrown so far. But again, much like with Steve Dorobiala, when the other guy is knocking them all down, there's not much you can do. So it's a win for Paul Geiger, 2 in a row. He'll advance on to our next match. We will recap this one and get you ready for match number 3 when Sue and I return to Beat the Champ at the Jamestown Bowling Company. It's a second win in a row for Paul Geiger, 246 to 180 over Jeremy Crist. Is there something challenging for you to have to bowl against a guy who is coming off of a perfect 300 game? Did that change your thinking a little bit going into this?
No, it didn't change my thinking, but it definitely intimidates you a little bit.
Right.
You know, he just threw 12 in a row and then opened up with the first 2 more, and he did give me a chance, but by missing twice. But that was it. Paul's bowling good.
Yes, he is bowling very well, and Jeremy did a pretty good job to push him. Hopefully we get you back on this show a few more times moving forward.
I hope so.
Jim, make him feel a little better.
A little cash for you, buddy.
Thank you.
Thanks, and I know you'll be back again. He's a great bowler.
All right, well, it was good to finally see you on the show, Jeremy. We've got one more match to go for this week. Can Paul Geiger keep it rolling? We'll find out when we come back. Thanks, Joe.
I'm here today on Beat the Champ with Sean Dietz. Sean, you got moved up a little bit. You were supposed to be here a little later. We rushed you here. Tell us a little bit what happened.
Well, I got a text about 9:45 saying to be here at 11:30. That's about how long it takes to get here, so I ran out the door.
Yep, so you live from Lockport, a couple hours to get here?
Yeah, it's a little less than 2 hours.
So what made you drive out here to the qualifier?
I just had nothing to do that day. I knew not many people were going to be down here, and I thought it would be kind of easy.
Did you find them easy?
Somewhat.
Well, I know we bowl together on Mondays, so I know how good you are, and I know how solid you can be out there. And, you know, another lefty out here taking on another lefty. Any mental thing going on when you have to bowl left-handers?
No, it's just a matter of, I guess, transition. I guess we don't normally see that. So might get a little confusing, but I'll get through it.
All right. Well, very good point, and I hope you do well. And, you know, just throw it the way you always throw it, Sean.
Okay, thank you.
Right.
Sean Dietz will be the guy who will try to stop the red-hot Paul Geiger, match number 3 here at the Jamestown Bowling Company. And Dietz will get things started off, making his 5th appearance here on Beat the Champ, an overall record of 1 win and 3 losses for the 23-year-old from Lockport. And that was the last time we saw Sean Dietz, was up at Brad Angelo Lanes when we were up there in the middle of 2017, and it was Sean who lost to Michael Kemp at that particular time. So a good start for Sean Dietz here with a strike.
Yep, big high backswing, a lot of power.
Maybe the biggest, highest backswing
Yeah.
of anybody we've ever had on the show. It's kind of fun to watch. It's interesting. It jumps out right at you. So.
Yeah, the challenge for him is to not hit up on the shot because his hand, he has so much rotation at the bottom. And that shot that he did on 17 was just, you know, that's his picture-perfect shot.
So anytime Paul Geiger does anything other than a strike, you get oohs and ahs from the crowd, and that's just what happened as he leaves the 7-pin, and he'll have to go for a spare here on frame number 1. A 300 perfect game in the first match of the day here in the win over Steve Dorobiala, and then a 246 for Paul Geiger in the win over Jeremy Crist. So he's just averaging a healthy, 273, something around there.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
That's all. So what a debut for Paul Geiger. Again, the first time he's ever been on the show. Local guy, at least from the area, from Hinsdale, owns some bowling centers in Bradford, PA, and Salamanca. So he's a bowling guy, but what a way to introduce yourself to the world of Beat the Champ bowling by throwing the 300 game.
Right, and that's to Western New York people, he's unfamiliar, but to this area, I'm sure, you know, they know who he is.
And that's the first time that Paul has thrown anything that didn't look perfect and didn't give him near perfect results. So That's a tricky
that
five-pin
lane's
split.
been a little bit. That lane's been breaking down for him, and I've been watching his feet move to the left, and that lane seems to be the challenge.
So now,
Makeable. This is makeable.
This is makeable. Trying to get all 5 pins.
Especially since there seems to be a little bit of gap there. That if you can get in that gap, that could slide over and take that out.
610, 247. Well, he got the 247 on the left side, but he will leave 2 on the right. So that's the first open frame for Paul Geiger in 3 matches.
That's the most vulnerable we've seen him so far.
Absolutely. You know, and again, if you're not watching early in the show, make sure you catch it on the rerun. Just the second 300 game and the return of Beat the Champ thrown by Paul Geiger in our first match. And Sean Dietz having a little trouble with the left side as well.
Yep, he got that little inside his target, and he was happy to break that up and just leave the 610.
There's the Castellone Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram scoreboard, manned as always by Janelle Sabin, and always fun to see Janelle putting a couple of stars up there like she did after Paul Geiger's 300 game.
You think I'd be used to this whole lefty-righty thing now after watching left-handers all day, that I'm still got to get used to the pins being on the opposite side.
And don't forget, qualifying coming up, final chance to qualify for next month at Manor 2 Lanes comes up on Sunday tomorrow. And the top qualifier in the round of 24 wins a television valued at $500 from our friends at Dirt Cheap TV. Big high backswing for Sean. And again, losing a little steam and leaving 2 pins on the left side.
Yep, they're starting to break down, which will, go figure. And we talked about transition, and this is exactly what it is right here. So these guys are going to have to change their angle, maybe change bowling balls even when this starts to occur.
And Sean did not like it as soon as he threw it, and that's why it's an open frame in the 3rd for Sean Dietz. So both guys muddling through a little bit here. Only 1 strike through the first 5 thrown. Let's see if Paul Geiger can get back on it, as he threw his 56th career perfect game earlier on the show. And he got that late fall of the 7 to get himself the strike.
Paul sets the ball very short. If you notice that the projection is not out onto the lane, and that creates another challenge. I mean, you're used to doing it, you adjust to it. I also set the ball a hair short, but if you see it, he sets it very close to the foul line as opposed to up and out, which is very different from Sean, who gets it out on the lane, who will create a lot more back end because you're retaining that energy.
So the lefty on lane 17 gets the strike.
The action will continue on Beat the Champ in just a minute. Welcome back to Beat the Champ.
Yeah, once again, Paul just, I don't want to say he's lost it, but seems to be struggling to find the right spot and the right approach.
Right, 18 does seem to be a challenge for him. That one came up a little bit light, and I think the 7 pin was a fortunate leave, but still keeps him 5 pins back. Now he needed that strike there would have put him ahead in the match, so we're close.
And again, way too much to the left, and that's another open as the missed spare opportunity goes into the gutter on the left side. Boy, just as quick as you start, things can go wrong a little bit.
Well, this gives you an idea, though, of how difficult an 800 series really is to shoot.
Right.
I mean, he's got 640. He's got 546, right? 546
coming
going in.
Yep.
That would still require him to shoot a 250 game, and this is transition is what happens. I mean,
That's a good bounce back for Paul. Yeah, when you put it that way, you think about it. He's thrown a 300 and a 246, and he still needs a 250 here in order to get himself an 800.
And there's been a lot of play on the left side of the lane, so it's been changing for him. You know, it's not like he's the only person there, and he's creating his own transition. We've got lefties on it that are changing things.
Yeah, Sean's struggling with that 7-pin as well, too. You can see the look on his face. He's getting tired of seeing that 7-pin staring down at him. Well, we're about midway through here, a little past midway through of our competition on the taping here, so the lanes are starting to react a little differently than they were before.
Good job there for Sean, keeping his head in the game and making that 7-pin, because you don't want to get aggravated because you left it. You got to stay solid. He's got a 17-pin lead that's kind of been given to him on the bench, you know. I mean, so keeping your head in the game is important now. He's got 2 frames to go.
Yeah, and again, Sean getting a little frustrated there that stuff that he thinks is supposed to go down is not going down.
Well, he can watch his opponent go high on that lane, so there's definitely some dry boards out there that's creating a little hook for them, so he can see what's happening to Paul is definitely going on in the lane. Good spare.
Back-to-back spares for Sean Dietz. So now Paul Geiger takes over in frame number 9, needing to put some strikes on the board here in order to pull off the sweep of the week that started with such drama and excitement of the 300 game.
Important shot here.
Big strike in the 9th frame. 3 new bowlers waiting to take on the winner of this match for next week's show, and that includes a father and son combination. And if things fall right, we may very well get dad versus son on next week's show, so you're going to want to tune in and see what happens with the Millers, whether we're getting an all-Miller showdown or not.
I did talk to them a little bit, and Dad only came to, for moral support for his son, he only came to bowl with him. He didn't expect to make the show with him, so.
There you go. That'll be the first time we've ever had that happen on the show, if it does
Big shot
occur.
here, big shot. Great shot.
And a big answer from Paul Geiger, a 3rd consecutive strike.
So he can shut Sean out with another strike and 7 pins.
So there's the Castellone Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram scoreboard laying it all out for you. Paul needs another strike here to set himself up to get another win. Locking in, focusing.
Good shot.
There's the strike he needed. So 7 pins on this throw will get Paul Geiger the victory. What a week it's been for Paul. How much fun to watch the way he's bowled here, and just consistency, you know, reminds you of some of the other bowlers that we have on this show that are just so steady and consistent. And there's the 7 pins plus 3 more that he needed, and it's going to be another win for Paul Geiger as he puts up a 209 final score to defeat Sean Dietz. So we're going to get a little more of Paul Geiger. We're going to see him on next week's show. We'll talk to Paul and Sean and get you ready for next week's show when Sue and I return to the Jamestown Bowling Company. You're watching Beat the Champ. 209 to 183, our final score as Paul Geiger sweeps week number 2 here at the Jamestown Bowling Company. Sean, you put a good battle into him. You had the lead for most of it. A couple of those corner pins, kind of what brought you down, isn't it?
Yeah, I felt I was throwing the ball pretty good. Left to close a couple 7s. Left lane started jumping on me a little. It's hard to figure out when you got one game.
Yep, and you're going up against a guy who's certainly bowling very well. Jim, try to make him feel a little better about the trip down here.
Well, Sean, thanks for coming down. You threw it great. Got a little money for you, and I hope that you come back again.
Yeah, maybe.
All right, well, we've seen plenty of Sean on this show, and I know we're going to see more of him. Your first chance to talk to Mr. Perfect down there, Sue.
Wow, Paul, stuck in 300. We've waited a long time to see that. What's going through your head?
That was the last thing I expected today. Last thing. Didn't plan on doing that, but as it got closer, then I started to try to focus in a little bit. The second one in the 10th wasn't a good shot. Got away with it, and the rest of them were pretty good, so I'll take it.
Well, this shows how difficult it is to actually shoot a 800, right? To keep that momentum going.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, the lanes were changing, and as I went right, I was struggling with my footing a little bit there, so it wasn't good. So, but it was enough to win.
Well, you had to throw the last 5 to pull that out. So great bowling.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I think Jim's got a little extra bonus there for you for the 300 game too.
I wasn't surprised about the 300 at all, and the clutch bowling that game. Good job.
Thank you.
All right, so a lot of fun, a lot of thrills from Paul Geiger, and guess what? We're not done with him because we're going to see him on next week's show. Sue and I will set all that up for you and wrap up week number 2 in Jamestown when we return on Beat the Champ. First week here in Jamestown, a sweep for Steve Dorobiala. Second week, a sweep for Paul Geiger, including the 300 and the equivalent of a 755 series. Welcome to the show, Paul.
I know, we said we had no way of predicting what was going to happen. Not even thinking about a 300. We're worried about these people getting on the show for the first time and not being nervous. 300. So, wow, what a week, right?
Yeah, it was a fun week. Fun to see Paul bowl, and we're going to get to see him bowl against 3 more opponents next week. What did we say? Something about looking for more excitement?
Yeah, I guess that was some foreshadowing, and we got it. We got that excitement.
Yeah, we did. Always fun to see a perfect game. Always exciting. It was dramatic. Just a second on Beat the Champ's history here since we've been back. We thank Paul for giving us a lot of thrills, and maybe he's got a few more left for us. We'll find out when you join us next week on Beat the Champ.